Welcome back to Redefining Safe, and with us today, our in-studio guest is Morgan Streeter of the Fatherhood Initiative here in the Des Moines metro area, and getting some good comments, as always, from our co-connector, Tom Criswell. I'd like to just take a minute, too, and go back to where we were before the break and talk a little bit about, we talked for 15 minutes almost about all the bad stuff going on in the world, so let's balance this a little bit. And I do want to go back to some of the obstacles and ways we can overcome them, but it's also good that the listeners understand out there that the world is not always full of obstacles that it just can't be overcome. I've been very fortunate in the past 5, going on 6 years now, to see men who have participated in other fatherhood initiatives be welcomed to the YMCA to continue where they've left off. I've also been fortunate to see numerous people who have had child support problems work with DHS and organizations like yours to overcome them.
Well, that's
not always easy.
My advice is when child support sends you a letter, respond to it, because if they don't hear from you, they're going to think the worst.
It's going to work out anyway.
Yeah, they'll get theirs.
Yeah.
So it's just better to just be up front with them and let them know what's going on. It's ironic because the two big supporters of this initiative are Child Support Recovery and the Department of Human Services, and one of the other
who are always viewed as the bad guys.
Oh yeah. Two of the wickedest organizations, historically in everybody's mind, have been at the forefront in trying to make these changes. Another committee that I'm on is with the model court for the juvenile court system, and they have a goal to get 20% more dads involved in a child welfare case after it gets in front of a judge. So that means, once a child is removed from the home, they need to identify the dad, and they need to engage that dad no matter where he's at. And that's a goal set down by the state, set down by the county to the worker to make sure they're meeting their expectations. It's actually part of their job description, so to speak. I mean, when you actually have a firm number on a goal like that, it's really impressive that the state's done something like that. And
a what next?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we can talk about, we need to engage dads. Woohoo. Well, what are you going to do about it? Let's get some accountability behind it. And I think that's where some of these other entities struggle, where there's no accountability behind it. Now we have, you better get 20% or some of your federal funding is going to go away. That's talk.
Well, that's incentive. When it's in your job description, this is one of your criteria for your job. That's a lot of motivation there.
Oh, totally. Absolutely. And I've worked with a couple of the judges, some of the attorneys, and definitely a lot of the DHS workers who have seen that as a priority. Because it's also a shift in mindset where before the dad was viewed as a hassle, oh gosh, we're going to find this guy. Or they were taking the word of a woman who they just removed the children from, that he's a jerk. I know, he's a bad guy. And there was one case where the woman did exactly that I was actually the in-home worker. He's an awful dad, he's a crackhead, he's a jerk, blah, blah, blah. They found him. He's a full-bird colonel in Florida, respected by our government and by the
community
society,
around
the
him.
community. He had no idea the situation was even going on because she was so transient that and as soon as he knew about it, he came forward. He did everything the state asked him to do, and the child's with him back in Florida, as it should be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just by giving a voice to that, as well as follow through.
Right. Yep. Yep, and that was before the goals or whatever. But yeah,
I was thinking of a quote that you made one time we were doing the video about there was only three things sure, and that's death, taxes, and child support or something like that. It's kind of a fun little spin on that. I don't know why I just remembered it as like a little news flash, but which that means it's good because it's memorable. But we talked about one of your success stories and as teaching a class there and stuff, but give our viewers and listeners, and even me, because I haven't had a chance to see him much the past couple years, a little view of the success rate of the Fatherhood Initiative and from your perspective and some of the things we can do to make it better. But start with, tell us what's going on.
Well, we have 4 classes every week now that we're going to offer, and that's up from 1 when it was just me about 3 years ago.
I remember.
Yeah. And one of those is reserved for moms now, too. We have in this last session, we had 50 parents enroll in the program.
There we go. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, and of that 50, 45 are going to graduate after the 15-week curriculum. Tom, you were asking what the criteria for that.
Yeah, what are the
incentive?
criteria for the incentives
Yeah.
to get this reduction in off that's owed to the state, not the mother? We
Sure.
want to make that clear.
It's
point.
attending the 15-week curriculum, which is just everything from, what did you learn from your own dad to what are you doing now to where do you want to be kind of curriculum. And so you complete the 15 weeks, you make your you make your monthly obligation to child support for 6 months, 12 months, and then finally 2 years. And at each one of those breaks is an incentive. At 6 months, it's like 30%.
So it's graduated based on performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when I say there are hoops to jump through, I mean, it's pretty much, say you got a full-time job, you're getting it garnished anyhow because child support is going to get theirs.
They're going to get it.
Yeah.
No
And
doubt.
so really all you have to do, I mean, not all you have to do in this economy is keep a job for 2 years. I mean, I guess that's a bigger hurdle than you'd think. They're also aware of the fact that some of these guys are seasonal workers, and so they'll take a little bit more on the June, July months. And so when the December, January month hits, it's not, he didn't make a payment, he's out of luck. Kind
Little
of deal.
budget billing like the
Yeah.
utility company
Well,
does.
yeah, exactly. Like, duh.
I like that. Well put.
We've had a few events now. We've had the Father's Day breakfast for the last 3 years. We're going to have that again. We've had, as our keynote speakers, we had Michael Gartner last year. And then the year before that, we had
Our new governor.
Governor Terry Branstad. So, again, both sides of the aisle, both extreme sides of the aisle.
Well put.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we try to keep it politically neutral because it's just what it is. We just know that kids do better when both parents are involved. And we continue to preach that, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback. I'm sure there's some haters out there, but,
You're always going to have that.
yeah. Well, and what's
the old saying? 10% of the world will never like you. You can pray for them.
Right.
You don't have to hold you back. Get with the 90%.
I work closely with the Family Violence Center. I'm actually on the board for the Iowa Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So, it's a relationship to get over those male-female gender biases and just come together and find the common ground, just like anything else.
Which is the children.
Right. Yeah. When in doubt, what's best for the children? And when in doubt, do no harm. I mean, that's been a domestic violence mantra forever. Do no harm.
And a medical one.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and a medical one. Yeah. Don't hurt.
Recap a little bit. You mentioned earlier the gentleman comes up to you after the meeting and says, well, how's this going to benefit me? Well, let's see. If your neighbors and the kids aren't running wild around the neighborhood because dad's learned how to be a better parent and he's actively involved in the life of the kids, I think that would raise the standard in the community.
Right.
I mean, forget the dollars and stuff like that, but how about healthy children that have a firm foothold in what their family's like and growing up to be productive citizens? Dad's learned how to be a better parent, so he's active in his family and in the community and working a job and keeping that job.
Well, yeah, I mean, the stats reflect that too. When dads are involved, when both parents are involved, kids are less likely to drop out of school. They're less likely to get pregnant before they get 18. They're less likely to go to jail. They're less likely to use drugs. And just on a smaller scale, they're probably going to be less likely to go down the street bashing in car windows. They're probably going to be less likely to be spray painting on houses and buildings. They're just going to be less of a burden on our taxes when we have to have somebody clean up their mess or pay for the insurance to handle that situation.
And far more likely to stay in school and graduate and continue that.
And produce in the society and contribute as fine, upstanding taxpayers.
Forget the money. I'd just rather have that.
Well, yeah.
While I agree with you both, as a diehard independent, I'm always trying to be looking at things from both sides of the fence and both sides of the desk. I'm going to just add some numbers to that not only commends your program, it grounds it. If you had 50 participants in a class and 45 of them graduate,
Right.
wow. I mean, that's a good percentage.
Yeah.
But let's add to the wow factor. If those 45 participants in your class have 2.4 children, as the books say, that are 70 to 80% likely to land in prison from bashing out car windows and all these other things.
Doing the drugs and
if you just affected the lives of 100 kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
More than 100 kids. And my math was a little off. I forgot the 0.4 because that 0.4 is always hard to babysit.
And that's the 15-week session. And we have do the math. We have 3 of those each year. So over the course of a year, we would have 150 participants with 135 graduating.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's pretty
So you needed to hear them numbers too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, today we have Morgan Streeter, Director of the Fatherhood Initiative here locally. Pleased to call him a friend, but also I'm a very big supporter of the initiative, and I'm going to put kind of a local spin on our worldwide radio show here. Your keynote speaker from your fatherhood breakfast 2 years ago, who's now our governor, asked this question right in the Des Moines Register. It said, "Want smaller government? Then pitch in." I like that statement. So there's lots of ways they can pitch in, and one of them is by getting involved with your organization. Right. And number 2, you guys are in a funding drive right now. How would people contact you about that?
Well, they can contact me either by calling me, 515-868-0528. Emailing me is the best way because my phone blows up with just everybody needing support. And I am an initiative of one right now. I mean, I do have volunteer help. So, again, volunteers are definitely helpful. There's also my email, morgan.streeter@dmymca.org. And, anything you can do. What the money goes to is not only providing a service for the groups, food, soda, bus tokens. Who knew those are so important? But that seems to be a bigger motivator than child support half the time. But also, we give them a membership to the Y for a year. Mm-hmm. So, instead of saying we're going to help you out, we're actually doing things again. Here, you get into the Y. You and your kids get into the Y. We got swimming lessons. We got, sports activities. We got all sorts of stuff that we want you to be involved with. We want you to get in here.
And a great place to take the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's dig more into that when we get back. We know that we need the community to get involved in order for you to be able to multiply. So let's talk about that when we come back from our break.
All right.
Redefining Safe will be back after a short break. Thank you.